A week before my wedding, my dad was laughing while he installed a hidden camera in my fiancé's car. 2 days later, I hit play and blew up my own life in one evening. Sometimes I think it wasn't me who canceled that wedding. It was a little black box under the dashboard. My name is Natalie. I'm 31. I live just outside Houston, in a studio my parents bought for us to start family life in. There is no family. The studio went to me and my anxiety. My parents are Elaine and Michael Harrington. My dad is that guy who started with a used pickup and a couple of warehouse contacts and now owns a logistics company, trucks, containers, rail shipments. My mom is a retired one-woman band who now boils strawberry jam in the backyard while running the company's marketing on her laptop. We also have a St. Bernard named Duke who is genuinely convinced he's their third child and that the deed to the house is in his name. I was raised on the classic American dream template. Good school, decent college, no early pregnancy, no criminal record, please and thank you. My mom used to say, "You can do whatever you want, with a degree, a ring, and health insurance." My dad would add, "And a prenup," and laugh. Only I knew he was about half kidding. Before Brandon, I had 3 almost serious relationships that could be turned into a handbook called How Not To. Guy number 1 was a creative soul who loved my kindness and my credit card equally. Guy number 2 was a shiny lawyer who once said, "We'll keep our finances separate. Your parents are rich. I've still got a mortgage." Guy number 3 occasionally showed up with tiny kids' shoes in his trunk and insisted, "Oh, that's just my nephew sometimes." After guy number 3, my mom sat across from me, put down 2 bowls of ice cream and said, "Let's be honest. You have terrible taste in men. We'll pretend we understand. You'll pretend you're going to ask our opinion." I promised that next time I'd bring home someone normal. Enter Brandon. Brandon literally drove into my life, at a gas station. I was standing by the pump, arguing with the payment app, looking like a boiled shrimp, red, sticky, and pissed off. My phone was flashing yet another text. "Sorry, can't make it tonight. Something urgent came up." Another Prince. "Need a hand?" I heard behind me. I turned. Tall guy, tank top, gym shorts, tan skin. That calm kind of smile you only get when your most urgent business in life is topping off your tire pressure. "Only if you're a therapist," I said, "and you can rewrite my entire life." "Therapy's not really my field," he smirked, "but I can fill your tank." 10 minutes later, my car had gas, the app was defeated, and I already knew his name was Brandon, that he was a trainer at a regular gym not far from my office, and that he didn't have any urgent plans right then. A month later, we were texting every day. I found out he grew up in a rougher neighborhood with parents who were more committed to alcohol than to each other, that he joined the army because I had to get out of there somehow, and after his service he went back to school, got certified, and got a job as a trainer. He wasn't a millionaire, a genius, or a rock star. He was just normal. A grown man who woke up in the morning, went to work, and didn't whine about it. That's what got me. Our first dinner at my parents' house looked like they were rehearsing for a senator's visit. Mom pulled out the good china, Dad sat at the head of the table like the CEO of his own life, and Duke sniffed Brandon like he was deliberating his verdict. "So, you're a trainer," Dad said. "Yes, sir," Brandon answered calmly. "And your plans?" "Work, grow, save up for a down payment on a house. Maybe open my own gym one day." Dad nodded like he had 3 spreadsheets open in his head. Then came the big question. "Do you have debt?" Brandon was honest. Small student loan, car payment. After dinner, Mom told me, "He's good, really good, but it's not going to be easy for you too." Dad added, "If he loves you, let him show he can take responsibility." A year later, Brandon proposed, with candles, a dinner, and my ugly, happy crying. Dad shook his hand. "Welcome to the family, son." My parents bought us a small studio closer to downtown, a nearly new car in my name, and covered a big chunk of the wedding budget. Brandon was tortured by this. "I don't want to live off your parents," he kept saying. "I don't want it to feel like I'm getting everything handed to me." Dad said, "We're going to spend this money anyway. Better on you two than on Duke. He already thinks he owns the place." Mom just kept repeating, "The only thing that matters is honesty and loyalty. The rest we can figure out." I listened and nodded because I truly believed I'd found a man who was all of that. Or so I thought. A week before the wedding, we went up to my parents' place for a barbecue. Final details, mood boards, playlists, the whole circus. Mom was making a salad and yelling at me for being too nervous. Duke was chasing a green ball like national security depended on it. "Natalie, go see where your father disappeared to," Mom said. "He vanished again like our property tax bill." I went looking. Office, empty. Wine cellar, empty. Garage, light on. I peeked in and found my dad on his knees by the front bumper of Brandon's car. In his hands, a little black box, a laptop, a mess of cables. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Planting explosives in the wedding gift?" "Relax," Dad grunted without looking up. "It's just a camera, same ones we put on all our trucks." "You're installing a hidden camera in my fiancé's car," I said slowly. "You do hear yourself, right?" He straightened up and sighed. "Natalie, I have lived way too many years in a world where people smile at you and then throw you under the bus," he said. "I'm used to checking, not trusting." "Then just talk to him," I said. "Ask him straight." "And say what? Hey there, son, you're definitely not cheating on my daughter, right?" Dad snorted. "Do you know what every man will answer? No. Even if he's on his way to see someone else." Everything in me bristled. "This is an invasion," I said. "This is protection," he shot back. "If I'm wrong, I'll buy him an expensive bottle and apologize. If I'm right, you won't be left with a baby and a mortgage and a guy who lied the whole time." He snapped the panel back into place, hid the camera, tested the remote connection. "At least turn the audio off," I said. "The video will be more than enough." "Fine," he sighed. "Video only." I probably should have blown up right then. Instead, I said, "If it turns out he's clean, you tell him about this yourself. You don't put that on me." "I promise," Dad said. Too bad we never got that far. 2 days before the wedding, Brandon told me he had to drive out of town for work, meet some guy about a new contract for the gym. I was deep in wedding prep hell. Nails, brows, dress fitting, all the stuff that looks fun only in Pinterest boards. He came back late, exhausted. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just a long day," he said, and went to shower. He was asleep within minutes. I wasn't. The camera was buzzing at the back of my mind. So were the things he hadn't told me, and my dad's words about protection. After an hour of staring at the ceiling, I got up, went down to the garage, opened the app on Dad's laptop. At first it was boring. Free therapy for an anxious bride. Highway, traffic, gas station. Brandon singing along to the radio. I almost closed the laptop and told myself to grow up. Then I saw the sign. 1-story buildings, ramps, people in wheelchairs. A nurse came out with a young woman in a chair. Thin, drowned in an oversized gray hoodie. Brandon practically jumped out of the car, grinned at her, scooped her up like she was made of glass, moved her to the passenger seat, buckled her in carefully. They pulled out onto the road. Fields, tree lines, some ancient gas station, a lake, a picnic area. Brandon spread out a blanket, carried her out, sat her down, unpacked food, juice. The camera was at a slight angle, but I could see enough. They were laughing. He brushed her hair back. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Then they laid down on the blanket. She rested her head on his chest. He wrapped his arm around her. Something inside me just snapped. On the drive back to the center, the window must have been cracked, and even with the audio off, the mic caught a few lines. "Brandon, I'm scared." Her voice. "What if I can't do this?" "I'm here, Liv." His. "We're going to raise our baby. I don't care what the doctors say." We're going to raise our baby. I hit pause. Sat there for a full minute, just breathing, trying not to throw the laptop across the garage. My fiancé, the man I was supposed to stand next to in church in 48 hours, was taking some woman out of a long-term care facility and promising to raise their baby. I finished the video. He carried her back in his arms. The nurse nodded at him like they were old friends. He sat in the car for a moment, forehead on the steering wheel, then started the engine and left. The file ended. So did my old life, pretty much. I went back upstairs, flipped the light on. Brandon stirred. "Natalie?" I dropped the laptop on the bed next to him. "Watch this," I said. "Rehearsal for your future family life." He watched. I watched his face. He tensed at the Green Oaks sign, turned pale at the picnic, closed his eyes at our baby. "What is this?" he asked quietly. "A camera," I said. "My dad's. In your car." He was silent for a few seconds. "So you and your dad decided to spy on me?" "We decided to find out the truth," I snapped. "You decided to build a second family." "That's not what's happening," he said. Classic line. "Really?" I laughed. "You drive out to a long-term care center, pick up a woman everyone there clearly knows you with, lie on a blanket with her, and promise to raise a baby. How else am I supposed to see it?" He rubbed his face. "She's my sister," Brandon said. "Nat, give me a minute. I'll explain everything." "Your sister, sure." I cut him off. "And the baby is also magically your sister's. And you're just... what? A saint?" I wasn't listening. At that point, I was pure anger in leggings. Brandon looked at me for a long moment. "I can see you've already decided," he said quietly. "It doesn't matter what I say. You're going to believe whatever the video tells you." He stood up, opened the closet, started packing. "You're seriously just gonna walk out?" I asked. "You're not even going to try?" "I am trying," he said, not looking back. "Trying to talk to someone who throws a recording in my face but doesn't ask a single question." He grabbed a bag, his wallet, his keys. "There's not going to be a wedding," I said. "I got that." He nodded. The door shut behind him, and that was it. My future husband turned back into just a guy with a backpack walking out of my life. The next day, I called everyone who needed calling: restaurant, church, florist, photographer. Saying, "The wedding is canceled 20 times in a row," is a very specific form of torture. I told my mom, "He cheated on me." She cried, hugged me, kept saying it was for the best. I handed my dad the camera. He watched the recording, came back, braced his hands on the table, and only asked, "Are you sure you want to call everything off?" "It's already done," I said. He nodded. Looked less like the guy who'd caught the bastard, and more like a man who'd dug for oil and found a toxic waste dump underneath. Brandon didn't text, didn't call, didn't try to explain. At the time, I called it cowardice. Now, it's not that simple. I moved back into our studio, alone. Everything in that apartment screamed that there should be 2 of us. 2 Mr. and Mrs. Muggs, 2 toothbrushes, half a closet sitting empty and judging me. My friends split into 2 camps. Team 1, better now than after 2 kids. Team 2, what a jerk, not even trying to talk. I agreed with both teams, depending on the day. I changed my route to avoid driving past his gym. Didn't look at his socials, first out of principle, then out of sheer fear. Once, in a grocery store parking lot, I almost ran into him. I saw his back, his walk, a stroller next to him. A real one, with an actual baby in it. I grabbed the steering wheel like it could save my life, stalled the engine, and by the time I got it started again, they were gone. I didn't sleep properly for 3 nights. All I could see when I closed my eyes was Brandon, the woman from the car, and that stroller, and yes, I hated him, and myself. Now here's what I didn't know back then, and what you already know I'm going to find out. Brandon spent his whole life believing he was an only child. Until one night, an old neighbor lady, in the middle of his parents' drunken argument, asked his mom, "How's your little girl doing? The one in that place?" Joyce tried to laugh it off, blame confusion and old age, but alcohol makes some tongues looser than they should be. That night, Brandon dragged the truth out of them. He had a twin sister, Olivia, born the same day, but with a severe autoimmune joint disease, brought up on pain, surgeries, and a prognosis that basically said, life in a wheelchair, constant care, endless meds. Jean and Joyce were young, broke, and very tired. They picked the easiest route, signed away their parental rights, handed the baby over to the system, and decided that it's better this way for everyone. For Brandon, forgetting was trickier. When he found out, he was in his early 20s. He moved out quietly, without hitting anyone, which frankly was impressive. Then he started looking for his sister through social services, archives, bureaucratic hell, and a couple of rare kind people in the right places. Eventually, he found Olivia at Green Oaks, that same long-term care facility I later saw through my dad's camera. She was sitting by the window with a book in her hands. He walked in and said, "Hey, I'm Brandon. We were born on the same day." She glanced at him, smirked. "Is this a new therapy? Entertain patients with fairy tales?" He showed her his papers, birth certificate, documents, proof. She listened and asked, "So they didn't lose me. They gave me away, officially." And then she just nodded, like she was filing it away under confirmed suspicion. Brandon started visiting every week, sometimes twice. He brought real food, not the stuff in plastic trays, books, managed to get her a decent mattress through a charity. And he heard story after story about people the system took care of, just enough to keep breathing, but not enough to live. Green Oaks had a resident doctor named Oliver, young, ambitious, and just a bit too in love with his own research. He came up with a social integration experiment. Take Olivia out to a restaurant and see how she copes with the real world. She wanted it. Badly. Brandon had doubts, but she begged, and he gave in. Bright lights, noise, tables packed too close together, bathroom at the other end of the room. Dinner out was a full-blown boss level for Olivia. By the end, she could barely stand. Oliver drove her to his place to rest because the center was far and she was already half asleep. And then, textbook how to wreck your medical license. He helped her lie down, gave her some water, sat on the bed for just a minute, and fell asleep. They woke up no longer in doctor-patient positions. A few weeks later, Olivia found out she was pregnant. Her primary doctor, not Oliver, looked at the test results and went pale. "Olivia, this is a huge risk. Your condition, your meds, the joint damage. Pregnancy is an enormous strain. I'm obligated to list all the possible complications." And he did, up to the word death. She listened. Then she called Brandon. "I'm pregnant," she said. "Everyone thinks this is insane." Brandon came the same day, sat on the edge of her bed, held her hand in silence for a long time. Then he said, "I'm not going to pressure you either way, but if you keep this baby, I'm with you. I'm not letting the system take another person from our family." That was the moment my dad's camera later sliced into one line, "We're going to raise our baby," and played back to me without any context. Dr. Oliver, meanwhile, transferred to another facility at lightning speed. He was terrified. Patient, pregnancy, potential scandal, loss of license. Olivia didn't file a complaint. No resources, no strength, no desire to go to war with the system when she could barely breathe and had a baby growing inside her. Brandon found a charity to help with her treatment bills, helped her get disability and assistance, helped her move into a small, accessible ground floor apartment. He worked extra shifts at the gym, said no to himself, and said yes to diapers and a crib. And at the same time, he was planning a wedding with me, trying to find the words to tell me everything, waiting for the right moment that never came. That's where my dad's camera came in and finished the job for all of us. Olivia had the baby, a boy, Noah. The pregnancy nearly killed her, but it didn't. Both of them survived. Brandon turned into a one-man support service. Groceries, baths, doctors, paperwork. Rocking Noah at 3 a.m. while Olivia lay there bargaining with her joints not to fall apart. One night he came over with a small velvet box. "Hide this for me," he asked. "I can't throw it away, and I don't want to see it." He didn't explain. She didn't push. Months later, looking for a clean cloth diaper, she stumbled across the box, opened it. Inside was a thin white gold bracelet with a small pendant in the shape of an N. On the inside engraved, "For my wife Natalie." Olivia stared at it for a long time, at the word wife. That evening she asked, "Who's Natalie?" Brandon sat down. "My fiancé," he said. "Was." "Why was?" "Because I kept my mouth shut for too long," he said. "She saw a piece of the truth and decided she knew the whole thing. I didn't get to explain. Or maybe I didn't have the guts." Olivia is not big on drama, but even she decided this was too much. She looked up Elaine Harrington, Houston, Texas, found the company website, the address. Then she asked Dr. Oliver, who still sometimes gave her rides to appointments, for a ride to see one woman. He told her it was a terrible idea. Then he looked at Noah and agreed to go. That day I was in the office, writing some cheesy line about careful delivery across the country. The only thing being carefully delivered inside me was anxiety. My mom was at home, stirring her strawberry jam. Duke was guarding the pot from the local gang of crows. The gate buzzer rang. On the driveway, a car pulled up. At the wheel, a guy in a wrinkled doctor's coat. In the passenger seat, a woman in a wheelchair with a baby on her lap. Duke flew over, barking and trying to climb into her lap. "Duke, down!" Mom yelled. "It's okay," the woman smiled. "I'm used to pushy men." "Are you Elaine Harrington?" she asked. "Natalie's mom?" "Yes," Mom said slowly. "And you are?" "My name is Olivia," the woman said calmly. "Brandon is my twin brother, and this is Noah, his nephew. We need to talk." Mom later told me everything inside her went cold at that moment. The word mistress didn't exactly leave the chat. They rolled up onto the porch. Dr. Oliver parked himself in the shade like a human exhibit of guilty conscience. Olivia started talking. No tears, no theatrics. She told Mom about being given up to the system, about life in that facility, about Brandon showing up one day and introducing himself as her brother, about Oliver's experiment, the restaurant, the night he shouldn't have allowed to happen, the pregnancy, about doctors begging her not to keep the baby, about Brandon carrying her up and down stairs and fighting for funding. Mom listened and slowly realized the puzzle was from a completely different box. Then Olivia got to the day at the lake. "Brandon just wanted me to have one good memory of being pregnant," she said. "One that didn't involve hospital lights. That's why he took me to the water. We lay on the blanket and he said, 'We're going to raise our baby.' Not because we're a couple, because he didn't want Noah to grow up in the same hell I did. Then she pulled out the bracelet. "This is yours," she said, sliding the velvet box across the table. "You can throw it out, keep it, melt it down. I don't care. But I think your daughter and my brother got their chance to talk stolen from them, and I'm part of why." Mom looked at the bracelet with the little N, at Noah playing with Duke's ear, at the woman in the wheelchair who had come not to beg for sympathy, but to try to fix something she didn't even break, and she said, "My husband and I have tried very hard to protect our daughter. Apparently at some point we started protecting our own fears instead." She took a deep breath. "Natalie's coming by today. I want you to stay. And I'm going to call Brandon." I drove over to my parents' just because I suddenly wanted my mom's coffee and some quiet. I pulled into the driveway. Duke was doing his usual tornado impression. On the porch, I saw my mom, the guy in glasses I vaguely recognized as a doctor from some charity visit to Green Oaks, and a woman in a wheelchair with a baby on her lap. I knew her immediately. It was her, the woman from the video, except not pixelated. Real. My first thought was, well, at least his mistress is pretty. Yeah, my brain is not my best friend. Mom got up. "Natalie, come here," she said. "We need to talk." I sat. She put a mug of coffee in front of me. My hands shook so much I almost spilled it. "This is Olivia," Mom said. "Brandon's sister. And this is Noah." Olivia looked me straight in the eye. "I'm pretty sure I'm the reason you called off your wedding," she said calmly. "Can I at least give you my version of that recording?" I nodded. Where was I going to go? She told me what you already know. I didn't. With every section, my stomach twisted tighter, not because of Olivia, because of me. At some point, Noah reached for me. I automatically took him. He was heavy, warm, smelled like milk and baby shampoo. A whole little person who existed because one man once refused to repeat his parents' cowardice. "Brandon should have told you sooner," Olivia said honestly. "He's an idiot. I'm not excusing his silence. And your dad shouldn't have planted that camera, and you shouldn't have made up your mind off a single video, but we all did what we did. And I shouldn't have tried to control everything with gadgets," Mom added quietly, "or pushed you with my fear." Duke lay down across my feet like a very large, very furry emotional support animal. Mom put her hand over mine. "I called Brandon," she said. "Told him I want to see him this weekend. Here. With you. With Olivia and Noah. No pressure. Just to talk." "And?" I managed to get out. "He said he'd think about it," she answered. But from his voice, "I think he's coming." Olivia smiled sideways. "He's stubborn," she said. "But when it comes to people he loves, he shows up, even if he growls the whole time." I sat there with Noah on my lap, looking at the bracelet on the table, and realized that the person who hit play and decided she knew everything, that was me. Dad put the camera in. Brandon kept his mouth shut. But I'm the one who slammed the door on the wedding. Right now the bracelet is on my nightstand. Duke curls up next to the bed and sighs like some old philosopher. Brandon hasn't called yet. The weekend's still ahead. I don't know if he'll show up, and if he does, I honestly don't know what I'll say first. "I'm sorry," or "You're not innocent either." Probably both. So here's my question to you, since you've listened this far. If a man stays silent about the ugliest, most painful part of his life because he's terrified of losing you, but at the same time he's carrying someone else's fate on his shoulders and he's not actually lying to your face, is he a jerk? Or just a broken person who doesn't know how to do better yet? And me, the woman who watched one video, asked 0 questions, and canceled her wedding 48 hours before the altar. Did I destroy everything beyond repair? Or is there still something here that can be put back together? What would you do in my place? Give this story a second chance, or close the laptop, walk away, and build a life where there's no Brandon at all. Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.